Chapter 81 Ace, A Real Man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the melee set sail in a hurry, Nami sorted things out again and felt that Lin Hai was lying just now. So, Nami walked up to Lin Hai and asked, Lin Hai, Luffy and his brother really went to drink secretly? Then why do you and Zoro smell so much of alcohol? Lin Hai, who was sitting on the deck, had no choice but to raise his head and explain, we were eating, and then we were chased by Colonel Smoker from Rogue Town. Do you understand now? Humph, that's pretty much it. Nami looked at Zoro and the others who were sleeping on the side, and couldn't help but ask, you'd better move them inside to sleep. Seeing Lin Hai motionless, Nami turned to Sanji and Chopper helplessly and said, what are you still doing? Move them all into the room. Sanji nodded with heartfelt eyes and said, Haichi, Nami-san, I'm happy to help. At this time, Usopp said, Nami, let me help you install your weapon and then you can use it. With that said, Usopp ran off to do his own thing. Wei Wei stepped forward and asked, Lin Hai, you seem to have drank a lot. Is it okay? Do you want to go inside and sleep for a while? Lin Hai smiled and said, thank you, I'm here to enjoy the sea breeze. As he said this, Lin Hai raised his eyebrows and glanced at Nami, which meant, look at how gentle she is. Duong. Lin Hai's answer was Nami's violent blow. Unknowingly, Lin Hai, who was leaning on the pole of the boat, fell asleep in the sea breeze, until Nami pushed herself. Lin Hai said confusedly, Nami. What's wrong? Nami said angrily, they are all up, you should also get up and have dinner together, Of course, Lin Hai didn't kiss casually, because everyone was in the kitchen. For a moment, Nami felt that throbbing feeling again. After a while, Nami noticed something and quickly pushed Lin Hai away. She said with a red face and white eyes, go wash up quickly, it stinks. Looking at Nami's leaving figure, Lin Hai couldn't help but patted his right hand. He couldn't hold it back for a moment. No, this made Nami go away. On the table, Ace was helping Sanji serve the dishes and being a good helper in cooking. Seeing this, Sanji said, Ace, you are a guest, come and sit down, I don't need your help here. Ace smiled and said, you're welcome, my brother loves to cause trouble so much, he really caused trouble for everyone. Everyone scratched their heads and said, what happened, he. Zoro said excitedly, Ace is really Luffy's brother. Nami replied, impossible, someone with such common sense will definitely not be Luffy's brother. Sanji sighed, the sea is really full of wonders. Usopp nodded and said, today is really an eye-opener. Chopper said with tears streaming down his face, it's such a deep brotherhood, so touching. Wei Wei said awkwardly, I said you. Ha ha ha. Luffy said happily, Ace, my friends are all interesting, right? At this time, Lin Hai came in from the outside and said funny, what are you talking about? Hey, Luffy, Ace, do your heads still hurt? Really, if you don't know how to drink, don't drink. You want me and Zoro to do it? You carry it back. Ace and Luffy immediately got upset and said, what did you say? Lin Hai said provocatively, I said you two have the same drinking capacity as Smoker. In one word, dish. Smorg. Everyone shouted. Sanji exclaimed, isn't Smoker the smoking man from Rogue Town? Did he chase him here? Nami said speechlessly, it seems that we are being targeted by a troublesome person. Usopp wondered, why is he always chasing us? From Rogue Town to here. Everyone looked at each other, speechless. At this time, Luffy smiled and said, well, it's that Smoker. We were eating and drinking together today, but we were all drunk, ha ha ha. Zoro retorted, you, Ace and Smoker were drunk, not us. Wei Wei wondered, isn't Smoker chasing you? Why would he eat with you? Chopper and Usopp asked at the same time, what is going on? Luffy smiled and said, it was Lin Hai who wanted to invite him to dinner, but the smoking man got drunk while drinking. Nami turned to look at Lin Hai, are you inviting the Navy to dinner? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, he wanted to arrest us at that time. I invited him to dinner and made him drunk so that we could escape, right? Luffy exclaimed, I see, Lin Hai, your brain is really useful. After saying that, Luffy turned to look at Nami and said, "Nami, give me some money. If a navy comes after me next time, I will treat him to dinner." Duong. Before he could finish his words, Luffy was beaten directly. Lin Hai waved his hand and said, "What are you talking about? We are pirates and have no fixed abode. We are worried about this and that. We are eating." Oh. After a while, Lin Hai couldn't help but ask, "Ace, I heard that you are chasing someone." Ace nodded and said, "Yes, his name is Marshal D. Teach. He killed his companions and then escaped. I came here just to find him and put an end to this matter." Killing companions? This guy is really bad. Isn't this man too courageous? As a crew member on Whitebeard's ship, he actually dares to kill his own companions. Lin Hai felt that it was necessary to remind him, so he guided him. "I have heard of this man. He had fought with Shanks, one of the 4 emperors. The scar at the corner of Shanks' eye was from Takairu. Come on, Ace, you." Luffy wanted to ask what the Yonko were and how Shanks was doing, but Lin Hai stopped him. Ace raised his hand to stop Lin Hai from continuing and interrupted, "I know what you want to say. You want to say that I might fall into his hands, right? Lin Hai, do you know? That guy has been taken care of by his father for more than 20 years, and now he actually smeared his face, and he is still a crew member on my ship. As the captain, shouldn't I know this for myself? If I surrender to power because I am afraid of it, am I still a man? If that's the case, then my life will be in vain." He is indeed a real man. No wonder Ace has special charm. So many people like him. Yes, if someone is insulting your parents, will you hide and be a coward because the other person is powerful? Seeing this, Lin Hai couldn't say anything else. If he tried to persuade Ace not to settle the score with Tiki, although it was a good suggestion, he might not even be able to become friends. So, Lin Hai took out a bottle of ergoto from the system, and then poured a small bowl for everyone. Lin Hai raised the bowl and said, "I give you a bowl, but I remind you, if Natiki dares to do that, it shows that he has his own confidence. I think he is a conspirator. You should go back and discuss with Whitebeard first." "Hey, don't get excited, this is just a suggestion, it's up to you whether you want to or not." Everyone looked at Ace with admiration. Ace raised the bowl, drank it all in one gulp, and then said with a smile, "Don't worry, if something happens to me, you can come and save me, right?" Lin Hai smiled and said, "Then we've settled on it." Luffy also drank the drink and said with a smile, "I don't believe that Teach is Ace's opponent. Ace is very strong. Don't say these unhappy things. Welcome Ace as your guest." Cheers. Cheers. Hey Lin Hai, why is there only one bottle of wine? Do you have any more? Take them out quickly. Don't be so stingy. At this time, Ace didn't know how much trouble he had caused. Just because of Ace's joke at this time, in the future war on the summit, Whitebeard, the man known as the strongest man in the world, was visited by debt collectors, demanding 250 Baileys. Is this a loss of morality or a distortion of human nature? Lin Hai actually went crazy and asked Whitebeard for money in front of hundreds of thousands of naval elites and the people of the world. Because of this, Lin Hai became a god. Chapter 82 Ace's New Hairstyle. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, after having a meal last night, Ace quickly integrated into the Straw Hat Pirates. As soon as he got drunk, Ace was stupidly fooled by Lin Hai into showing off his fire power. When he got up in the morning, Ace remembered what happened last night. When he walked to the deck, he couldn't help but look at Lin Hai resentfully. Lin Hai Kai ignored Ace's look, but took a cigarette and wanted to borrow some fire from Ace. After all, the ability to burn fruits was really convenient for lighting cigarettes. At this time, Ace was thinking about what happened last night. When he saw Lin Hai coming over with a cigarette, he thought it was for him. Ace casually took it and bit it on his mouth. Lin Hai was stunned for a moment and said speechlessly, "I'm borrowing fire from you, why are you taking my cigarette?" Ace said awkwardly, "Didn't you smoke it for me?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "Want to smoke? 250 Baileys. Ace returned the cigarette from his mouth to Lin Hai. I don't want it anymore. Lin Hai took out another cigarette and started smoking it, and then said, you have already bitten this, and you want to give it back to me? I owe you 250 belly first. Just a cigarette? Ace started twitching nonchalantly, but what Ace didn't expect was that these 250 Baileys would embarrass him to death in the future. Being laughed at by Marco, being laughed at by Garp, being laughed at by everyone, suddenly, the Mary was surrounded. Wei Wei exclaimed, everyone, it's bad, we are being targeted by the billionaire elders of Baroque works. Ace smiled and said, I'll take care of it. Realizing that none of the Straw Hats had ever seen anyone except Lin Hai stopped fighting with Ace. I saw Ace stepping on his own boat, and then using his own ability to accelerate the boat. One person could deal with 7 or 8 ships. When Ace was drinking yesterday, he told Lin Hai the location of the boat and tied his boat to the Mary, so his boat is still there. Usopp on the side exclaimed, hey Luffy, are we really not going to help? There are so many people on the other side, can Ace do it alone? Chopper echoed, this is too dangerous. How can Ace fight on such a small boat? The opponent has guns and cannons. Zoro comforted, please be quiet and let us see the strength of the second captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Lin Hai smiled and said, I say you should study hard. Even if you can't learn, you should think about how to escape if you are not capable enough in this situation. Luffy asked confused, escape? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, just watch it carefully. Your broken second gear can't hit the natural system at all. If you don't run away, are you waiting for death? That when Luffy was about to retort that he could become stronger in the future, Ace had already taken action. I saw Ace finding an angle, then jumping up, crossing the boats and then falling back to his own boat, and began to accumulate power in his fists. Fire punch. I saw a huge flaming fist directly piercing through these ships, and then these ships turned into a pile of scrap wood, floating on the water. Have Sanji and Luffy ever seen this gorgeous and practical move before? See, Silk Cake 1, Ace. I didn't expect Ace to be so strong. He defeated his opponent in an instant. Luffy, your fists are much easier to use. Is this a natural devil fruit? After Ace jumped back to the Mary, Usopp and Chopper couldn't help but stepped forward to take a look at Ace. They were really curious. Lin Hai on the side said deliberately sourly, TCH, I know how to play some unrealistic things, I can do it too. As soon as he heard Lin Hai speak, Sanji couldn't help but said, are you jealous of him? Lin Hai was surprised, am I jealous of him? Would I be jealous of him? Zoro said speechlessly, you are not jealous of others, but you should let them go. Why are you grabbing others' hair? Ace Fish stared at Lin Hai, that means, what do you mean? Lin Hai said, I'm styling your hair. What are you looking at? Believe it or not, I'll beat you up until you run back and call me Whitebeard. Hey, hey. Ace rolled his eyes and said, can you please let go of your hands? You're going to make my hair look like this. Luffy's eyes flashed and he said, Ace, let Lin Hai help you style your hair. Lin Hai's hairstyle is the best. Ace asked doubtfully, really? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, I'm your brother, and you don't even believe me. With that said, Lin Hai quickly took out scissors, gel water, hair dryer and other items. Ace exclaimed, where did you come from? After saying that, Ace reacted quickly and added, we haven't fought yet. You will definitely call me brother by then. Lin Hai had already started to cut Ace's hair. As he was cutting and combing, Lin Hai said, Ace, I don't dare to get serious with you. Ace said with a smile, it doesn't matter if you are serious, because whether you can hit me or not is still a question. I advise you to call me brother. By the way, you won't mess with my hair, right? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, am I such a wicked person? I thought your hair was a little unnatural, so I combed it for you to look more handsome. But when it comes to fighting, you are really no match for me. If I really go, I'm afraid I'll chop you down. Luffy echoed, Ace, Lin Hai is right, he can arm hockey, he can also see and smell hockey, and what kind of hockey is there? Zoro added, it's overlord-colored hockey. That's right, that's right. Luffy gestured excitedly with his hands and feet. Last time, there was an astonishingly big crab, and Lin Hai chopped it up with one knife. Overlord color and domineering. Ace glanced at Lin Hai in surprise, but still said with a smile, you have never seen a real pirate, won't you know after we fight him once? Ahem. Lin Hai rolled his eyes. Ace, you underestimate me so much. If I don't beat you up later, I'll be really sorry for you. By the way, I heard that you and Luffy used to when we were together. Luffy said you often went to peek at Dayton taking a shower, right? Nanny. Everyone looked at Ace in surprise. Luffy's eyes were confused. Did he say that? Ace's face turned red from suppressing it, and then he shouted, Luffy. Luffy quickly moved his hands. Hey Lin Hai, don't talk nonsense. I never said that. Lin Hai pressed Ace down again and said angrily, why do you have a temper like fire? You can catch fire at the slightest moment. Be careful of being set up. Ace was stunned. Lin Hai seemed to have something in his words, but Ace still said, if I tell you that you peeked at Dayton taking a shower, let's see if you would be excited. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, go ahead, as long as you dare to say it in front of her. After some trimming and improvement, Ace's hairstyle is now complete. Pirate Chenhaonan. That's right, the hairstyle Lin Hai designed for him was based on Chenhaonan's hairstyle in the later movie Young and Dangerous. Zoro looked at it carefully and commented, Lin Hai is really good at doing this hairstyle. Sanji and Luffy's eyes shone brightly as they said, Lin Hai, can you give us the same hairstyle as Ace? He's so handsome. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, your hair is not that long, so you can't do it. Chopper on the side looked left and right in confusion, where is he so handsome? Why can't he feel it? Lin Hai said with a smile, Chopper, how can a reindeer like you understand the romance of our men? Chopper immediately exploded and said, what did you say? After saying that, Xiaoba bit Lin Hai's leg directly. Lin Hai exclaimed, you are not a dog, you are a reindeer. You don't bite. Please let me go. Chapter 83 The Embarrassed Lin Hai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Aboard the Mary, Nami, who was chatting with Wei Wei on the side, saw that these people were really noisy. She slapped her forehead and reminded, I told you to be quiet, the ship is about to dock. As she said that, Nami looked in Ace's direction. Oh, Ace's new hairstyle is pretty good, so, Nami praised, Ace, you have become more handsome. Ace had never heard a girl of a similar age say that he was handsome. He waved his hands a little sheepishly and said, thank you for your compliment. It's Lin Hai's new hairstyle for me just now, haha. Sanji on the side couldn't help it anymore, and immediately ran to Lin Hai with a pitiful expression on his face and said, Lin Hai, can you help me style my hair too? I want to be praised by Nami too. Lin Hai ignored Sanji's cry and begged, but threw a pair of sunglasses to Ace, and then said, Nami said we will dock soon, please be mature, why don't you get ready quickly? Everyone looked at Lin Hai with disdain, and then consciously prepared their own affairs. At this time, Ace walked up to Lin Hai and asked, do you want me to wear these sunglasses you gave me? Ahem. This hairstyle feels a bit bad without sunglasses, doesn't it? Lin Hai nodded and said, yes, do you have any other questions? After getting along with each other for a short period of time, Ace felt that this guy was quite interesting, so he stopped suppressing his own nature. Ace put on his sunglasses and stepped forward with a smile, Lin Hai, they all say I'm handsome, but you haven't said it yet. Looking at this guy Ace, why does Lin Hai feel a little unhappy? Thank you. You don't even say thank you, but you still want Lin Hai to praise him? Dream. As a result, Lin Hai said, as long as you don't talk, you are still quite handsome. Ace turned around and smiled, I just thought you were jealous of me. This is really unreasonable. He, Lin Hai, did the hairstyle himself. Is he, Lin Hai, jealous? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, you haven't woken up yet. Am I jealous of you? Ace raised his eyebrows, turned around, clamped Lin Hai's neck and said, you will die if you say I'm handsome. Yes. Lin Hai replied. Ever since, the two started to fight on the boat, At this time, Luffy came over and saw Lin Hai and Ace fighting there. He couldn't help but lectured, "I think you two are too immature, right? You don't even know how to prepare, and you are still playing here." Before Luffy could finish his words, Luffy was beaten by both of them. After a while, Nami asked, "Ace, we are going to the capital of Alabasta and a place called Rainland. What about you?" Ace glanced at Lin Hai resentfully, put on his hat, and said, "So, we are going the same way to the next place, why do you still want to go separate ways? However, I remind you that your actions may have been mastered by Crocodile. He is a pirate, but he actually wants to settle down and seize power. This joke is too big, or maybe he has ulterior motives." Luffy shook Lin Hai's arm and said, "Lin Hai, can I change the route with you? Let me and Nami go find Crocodile, and you can go with them to a place called Araba or something." Ignoring Luffy, Lin Hai turned to look at Ace and said with a smile, "Look at Luffy, that Crocodile has a natural devil fruit ability. Luffy doesn't even have haki, and he still wants to trouble him." With that said, Lin Hai threw Luffy out. "Who knows?" Luffy ran back and said, "I don't care, I won't lose." Ace said awkwardly, "Luffy, Lin Hai is right this time, you can't even touch him, how can you fight him? But that Crocodile is a Shichibukai, Lin Hai, if you go, it will be okay, right?" That when Ace asked this question, Zoro quickly turned his head and looked at the horizon, because Zoro knew what Lin Hai wanted to do again. "Really?" Lin Hai looked up at the sky 45 degrees and said with an inscrutable look, "In the beginning, I picked the stars with one hand and buried them in the setting sun. I have no rivals in the ages." With that said, Lin Hai turned to look at Ace and continued, "Ace, are you kidding me? I can't beat Crocodile." Chopper, Usopp and Luffy looked at Lin Hai with bright eyes. Silk Cake 1. Unmatched in the ages. Silk Cake 1. "Lin Hai, can you really pick stars? Can you pick one for me?" Lin Hai waved his hands and said, "Calm down, it's just stars. What's so big about that? Back then, I had a sword that could move mountains and topple seas, but this is not said often, and it is easy to forget. This is Lin Hai's situation now." So Lin Hai once again took out his notebook from the space backpack. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Hai with black lines on their heads. Is this guy serious? You have to pretend, at least remember the complete words. Why do you always forget the words? And he actually read from his notebook in front of everyone without blushing or heartbeat. It was so shameless. Author, yes, that idiot like Lin Hai, no matter how much money he pays to go to TVB actor training class, he won't take it. What? It turns out I read it from the notebook. I thought Lin Hai was really that powerful. No, Luffy, what he said is so ridiculous, you don't really believe it, do you? That's right, it's like that every time, but Usopp is still the best. Hey Chopper, you still have the vision. I'll tell you about my new adventure later. Really? Usopp, it's great to take risks. Facing the contempt of these guys, as well as Nami and Weiwei on the side, they still covered their mouths and chuckled. Lin Hai's cheeks were instantly flushed, and he suddenly said in embarrassment, "You bastards, don't even think about drinking my wine in the future, not even a drop of my wine, not even a Coke." At this time, Nami came over, tried her best to hold back her smile and said, "Okay, we will dock soon, everyone should prepare." As soon as they heard that they were about to dock, everyone immediately forgot what had just happened, because there are many adventures in the desert. After all, although they had seen it before, they had never actually played it. Seeing that everyone was eager to go to the ground, Weiwei quickly said, "Everyone, please bring warm clothes to prevent the cold." Nami asked, "Why?" Weiwei explained, "The climate in the desert is sometimes over 50 degrees Celsius during the day and over 10 degrees Celsius below zero at night." Luffy's eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "Sakuchi, I really want to go to the desert right away. It must be fun there." Nami said speechlessly, "Luffy, go and bring your clothes quickly." "Do you know what Weiwei means?" Luffy replied, "It's just an incredible desert. It sounds very interesting. Usopp, please help me clean it up. Everyone fell. Chapter 84. Only by catching it can you be qualified to compete. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the Mary docked, everyone's current journey was the same, so they didn't separate. However, in order to be more secure, Wei Wei wrote a letter and asked Runquai to take it to Albana, the capital of Alabasta, to tell her father the true face of Crocodile and the cause of this incident, and asked anyone who could try not to take action with Ko Sha Jun, or postpone the matter and wait for the arrival of Wei Wei and the others. After a group of people walked on the desert for a while, Lin Hai couldn't help but ask, "How far is the next city from here?" "We will have to buy a camel then, because we are walking on the desert after all," Wei Wei explained. "It's still some distance from the city," Luffy shouted from the side, "It's so hot, ah." Lin Hai said speechlessly, "I'm talking about Luffy, can you stop screaming so unpleasantly? You're crying in mourning." Nami looked at the sky and said, "Everyone, it's getting dark soon. Let's find a place to rest tonight." Luffy said in surprise, "Can you rest now? Sanji, bring me some water." "I'll take a sip." Sanji couldn't help but said, "No, with the way you drink, we will be out of water before tomorrow." At this time, Ace said, "Something is coming." Lin Hai rolled his eyes at Ace, this guy really knows how to be domineering. Nami asked, "What's coming?" Lin Hai wiped his hair and waved his hand, "Don't worry, there are just a few tornadoes." "Ha ha ha, today I can finally chop down that annoying tornado," Usopp exclaimed. "So you still remember that thing?" Sauron asked in confusion. "That is a violent tornado, what are you going to do?" Lin Hai showed off his qualifications and said very relaxedly, "Isn't it just a tornado in the desert?" "I'm sorry, I'm going to open your eyes today. Let you know what kind of sort it is." I saw a tornado in the distance coming towards Lin Hai with some kind of roar. The tornado also carried a lot of sand and stones. Space field. Suddenly, a transparent film continued to expand from Lin Hai's palm, and a tornado was about to enter Lin Hai's space field. Ace on the side was very curious about what kind of ability Lin Hai used. It seemed very strange. When I was about to observe carefully, I suddenly found that my position seemed to have changed. Of course it changed, because Lin Hai found that his knife could not stop the tornado, so he could only use his spatial ability to move everyone to safety. At this time, everyone looked at the tornado disappearing in the distance, and then they came to their senses. Sanji asked doubtfully, "Lin Hai, is this what you want to open our eyes to?" Xiaoba said honestly, "We seem to have changed our positions just now." "Was it Lin Hai who did it?" Luffy was very disgusted and said, "What? Didn't you chop down that tornado?" Everyone couldn't help but complain. Lin Hai expressed his helplessness. If he followed Sauron's example and created a tornado, it wouldn't be able to offset the tornado that just blew over. Only Ace stepped forward curiously and asked, "Lin Hai, your ability is a bit abnormal, what kind of ability is it?" Lin Hai suddenly became energetic. "Sure enough, there is someone who knows the goods." "So," Lin Hai said proudly, "I have space ability. I am an ability user who ate the space fruit. How about it? It's much cooler than your Xiao Xiao fruit, right? TCH. Ace rolled his eyes and said, "If you let me come just now, it would only be a matter of fists. With your ability, you would just run away." Lin Hai said angrily, "Shouldn't we have a test? It's getting dark anyway, so let's have a test." Ace wanted to beat Lin Hai for a long time, and immediately replied, "I will beat you until you beg for mercy later." At this time, Luffy and Usopp came closer with their eyes shining. There was a big show to watch. Luffy said, "I want to compete too." Sanji directly dragged Luffy away. "Luffy, you'd better just stay aside and watch carefully." Sauron on the side was very interested in seeing the extent of Lin Hai and Ace's abilities. Nami and Wei Wei were speechless, but they were still very interested in the duel between Lin Hai and Ace, and they followed the others to watch. Soon, the two chose a place for a duel. Who do you think is more powerful, Lin Hai or Ace? Of course it's Ace. I've never won a fight with Ace before. I think Lin Hai can win, after all, His ability is too weird, that at this time, after Lin Hai and Ace looked at each other for a long time, Lin Hai said, should we compare physical skills first or directly compare overall strength? Ace smiled and said, I don't care, it's up to you to choose. Lin Hai raised his eyebrows and said, we'll see if you're still cool later. Let's just start the fight. Space field. As soon as he said he would hit, Lin Hai directly used his ability to wrap Ace inside. Ace was facing this kind of spatial ability for the first time, and he really didn't understand it very well. When he was about to observe what was going on, his sixth sense faintly conveyed an inexplicable sense of danger. Ace's feeling was right. Before he could take action, he saw a stick hit him in the stomach, and the stick had armed domineering energy attached to it. Ah! Ace exclaimed and flew out. Lin Hai smiled and said, how is it? I won. Oh, yeah, Ace rubbed his belly and stood up in confusion, we just started fighting, how can you say you won? Okay. Lin Hai explained, if I had used a sword, do you think you could still stand there now? Ace was dissatisfied, no, how can this be counted? I wasn't even prepared, and you seem to have changed my position just now, and then I bumped into your stick directly. Luffy on the side exclaimed, Lin Hai, you are so despicable. When I fought with him, he used this move. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, this is my special move. If you can't catch it, can you blame me? Remember, in front of masters, only those who catch those special moves can be qualified for the subsequent competition. That is to compete with strength, speed, actual combat experience, etc. Comprehensive ability. Ace said speechlessly, come again, I won't be hit by you again this time. Lin Hai sat down on the ground and said directly, I have already won, so I won't fight anymore, he. Ace is really angry. This bastard was so annoying that he slapped himself with a stick and then stopped. At this time, Luffy stepped forward excitedly and said, Lin Hai, let's have a fight. Lin Hai stood up, clapped his hands and smiled, okay, come on. On the side, Sanji couldn't help but muttered, it turns out that Lin Hai is afraid of losing. He dares to fight Luffy, but he doesn't dare to fight Ace. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, do you think I'm stupid? Ace's ability is fire. If he bursts out, the damage will be too great. What if he gets injured, neither lightly nor seriously? Ace immediately said, I will control it. Lin Hai said speechlessly, don't come here, I won't fight with you. Let me tell the truth. If I fight with you, I can only use my unique skills. In that case, one of us will definitely be injured, so I won't fight with you. You hit. And Luffy on the side always felt that he was offended. What about the promised duel? Why did we start talking? Chapter 87 Lin Hai and Nami. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Walking in the desert for a long time will make people feel extremely irritable. On the one hand, the weather is hot, and on the other hand, it is because, like the sea, the scenery here remains unchanged and there is sand everywhere. The excitement at the beginning turned into torture now, especially for Luffy. Wei, how long does it take to arrive? It's going to be so hot. Luffy said with dull eyes, imitating the old man's use of a cane. Lin Hai rolled his eyes, Luffy, if you call me that again, everyone will be affected by you. Why don't you just empty your mind and try to see? After a while, Sanji exclaimed, Lin Hai, your method really works. Can it not work? That's what I did in class, and then what the teacher said became a lullaby. But soon, everyone finally arrived at a village. Everyone finally came back to life again. What are you talking about? There's no news about Blackbeard here. Entering the village, after inquiring, Ace heard someone say that there was news about Blackbeard teach in the west direction. So, Ace has been walking for so long in vain. Nami asked, Ace, are you still coming with us? Luffy pouted and said, Ace, are you really not going to be my partner? Do you want to stop thinking about it? Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, I'm talking about Luffy, do you still have the nerve to invite others? People can abuse you even if they don't have any ability. Aren't you ashamed? At this time, Ace handed his life card to Luffy and said, next time, see you at the peak of pirates. Well. Luffy said goodbye, Ace, see you next time at the top of the pirate industry. After Ace left, it was Lin Hai and Nami's turn. Lin Hai said, everyone, we will separate here. Nami and I will go find Crocodile. You go directly to the capital of the kingdom of Alabasta. Remember, be careful of the billions of elders from the kingdom who sneak in. Sanji said unhappily, Nami, why are you going with Lin Hai? But with that said, Sanji ran to Lin Hai and said, you better be honest with me. If you dare to do anything to Nami, I will definitely not let you go. Lin Hai turned to Nami and raised an eyebrow, and then said, what nonsense are you talking about, Sanji, I am a serious person. As soon as they heard Lin Hai's shameless words, everyone couldn't help but twitch their eyes, because Lin Hai's hand hugged Nami's waist again. Sanji roared like a beast, asshole, take your hand away, or I'll kick you to death. Lin Hai ignored Sanji and followed Nami on his way to the City of Dreams and the Rainland. After the two of them walked for a while, Lin Hai couldn't help but ask, Nami, are you tired? Listen to me, it would have been better to have a camel. Nami said speechlessly, didn't you meet a camel on the way? You just killed it with a knife. If you buy another camel, you might kill it again. Can you blame Lin Hai for this? That camel was so horny, it was just a beast, and it dared to show that kind of look to a human, so Lin Hai roasted it directly for Luffy and the others to eat. At the right time, Nami asked the question she had been asking for so many days, Lin Hai, why do I always feel that you are alienated from me after coming out of the garden? Ahem, people will always grow. After all, they have to meet every day, and the relationship between the two of them is like that. They always need time to think, right? Lin Hai stepped forward and hugged Nami's waist and explained, I was afraid that I would hurt you, but then I figured it out. Nami asked confused, what have you figured out? Lin Hai smiled and said, my Nami is actually very smart and generous, and not so easily hurt. Nami's face turned red, but she still said unhappily, who belongs to your family? Shameless. Lin Hai asked, Nami, I want a kiss. Nami, I'm on my way, stay away from me. Night falls again, the evening breeze blew through the extremely bright flowers blooming in one place, exuding an intoxicating fragrance. The little bee did not go to rest early like others. He was still working hard. The cool dew on the petals wets the pollen on one side, and the bee's job is to process these pollen. This is how honey is produced. However, the wet pollen seems a bit sticky, so the powder must be taken carefully. Alas, life is not easy, and people should cherish the present. Looking at such a touching picture of beautiful life, how could Nami not be moved? At this time, Nami closed her eyes tightly, raised her head and quietly felt the traces of the breeze blowing. Everything was so quiet and intoxicating. The call of the night wind, sometimes fierce, sometimes gentle, blows by one. How could Nami remain calm after seeing this beautiful scenery? So, she sang a song to express her praise and love for Jinya. It was another new day. When Nami woke up, she found herself sleeping in Lin Hai's arms. Thinking of last night, Nami couldn't help but roll her eyes at the people around her, and then urged, Lin Hai, get up quickly. Now, we still have to rush to the rainy land. Huh? Lin Hai said confusedly, when is it? Let me sleep a little longer. At this time, Nami was getting up, and suddenly found that she was unsteady and almost pressed Lin Hai. She glared at Lin Hai and said, get up quickly, Crocodile has completed such a big task for Weiwei's country. Hurry up and get rid of Crocodile. Looking at the flower-like Nami in front of him, Lin Hai stood up and said, go, but it doesn't matter to you, right? I told you not to force yourself, look. Nami's face turned red and she pinched Lin Hai hard. She didn't know what happened last night, so she forced herself. Lin Hai raised his eyebrows and said, come up, I'll carry you. Nami's face turned red, this is what you want to carry on my back, not what I want you to carry on my back. Be careful. Lin Hai asked, how long does it take for us to reach the rainy land? Nami replied, we should be there in the evening. Lin Hai exclaimed, isn't it still one day's journey? Nami said unhappily, are you tired of walking with me, that it does not make sense. Ignoring Nami, Lin Hai purchased the music of Zhu Beiji carrying his wife from the system. Although there were no lyrics, the music, he, Lin Hai, also wanted to experience how he felt in that situation, right? Nami, who was on Lin Hai's back, exclaimed, "What kind of music are you playing? Why does it sound weird?" Lin Hai smiled and said, "Doesn't it sound like a joy?" Nami said unnaturally, "What a joy, please turn it off." Nami always feels like she's being teased from this music. Lin Hai said reluctantly, "I just like listening to it." "Don't you think that listening to this music makes you feel inexplicably cheerful?" Nami said speechlessly, "Forget it, you can listen if you want. By the way, I ask you a question, and you have to answer me honestly." Lin Hai slowed down, turned around and asked, "What's the matter?" Nami struggled for a while and asked, "Do you like me?" Lin Hai nodded and said, "I like it." "Why do you ask such a stupid question? If I didn't like you, I would have been so." Nami bit Lin Hai's ear and said, "I'm not talking about this, you, please let go, I'm telling you." Lin Hai explained, "To be honest, you are a person who has a bad temper, loves money, and is violent, but you have a really good figure." Nami's face darkened, "Put me down, I don't want you to carry me anymore." Lin Hai scoundrel said, "No, as long as I can carry you, I will carry you." The sudden confession made Nami blush. Some things were said too clearly, and they lost their original flavor. Nami stopped asking questions, and pressed herself on Lin Hai's back again. She suddenly became angry. "Fun way, drive. Lin Hai exclaimed, "You bitch, get down here." Chapter 88. Is this a normal person? You are listening at novelfull.audio. During the time when Lin Hai and Nami were on their way, because Lin Hai was not there to restrict Luffy's range of activities, the result was good. Luffy and his friends are lost. They accidentally arrived at the City of Dreams, Rainland earlier than Lin Hai and Nami, and then fell into Crocodile's plan and fell into the trap designed by Crocodile. At this time, in the small room made of sea stone, Luffy was imitating Sanji. He was holding a cigarette with one hand, and then said, "Did you steal the meat?" "Ha ha ha, Luffy, your imitation looks so good." Usopp said excitedly at the side. Luffy continued to imitate Lin Hai. He wiped his hair with one hand, closed his eyes and said intoxicatedly, "Ah, another day when I wake up to my own handsomeness." Pfft. The Straw Hats hadn't started laughing yet, but Smoker couldn't help it. However, Smoker quickly turned his head away after reacting. "What's going on with the Straw Hats?" Sanji on the side couldn't help but twitching at the corner of his eye. He saw that Luffy and the others were so leisurely when they were locked up here, and Zoro was still sleeping so soundly on the ground. Sanji, who couldn't bear it, first gave Luffy and Usopp said angrily, "You bastards are all like this. Have you ever understood the current situation?" After saying that, Sanji gave Zoro another blow and said angrily, "You're still sleeping. Get up soon." Zoro sat up in confusion, rubbed his eyes and asked, "Oh. Is it dawn yet?" Sanji said angrily, "It's noon now." Crocodile, who was sitting on a chair outside the room, couldn't help but said, "Have fun and get along well in the last days, ha. Sanji replied, Just take it easy now. When Lin Hai comes here, let's see if you will still be so proud. With that guy's temper, he won't talk to you well." Luffy nodded and said, "If you don't let us out, you bastard, be careful Lin Hai comes to trouble you." Crocodile shook the red wine in his hand, took a sip and replied, "It seems that the man named Lin Hai is really trusted by you, but trust is the most useless thing in the world. I will let you know later. He is here to accompany you, don't worry, ha. Wei Wei in the small room couldn't help but said, "Crocodile, what is your purpose? Why do you do this to the kingdom of Alabasta? If you don't come to this kingdom, Alabasta can remain peaceful forever. But now, Crocodile, you are actually the one who deserves to die. Ha ha. Ha. Crocodile smiled devilishly, and then explained proudly, "It is this boring kingdom that is going to die, Miss Wednesday." With that said, Crocodile stood up and continued with a stern face, "I want Alabasta to disappear from this planet, and I want those citizens who are struggling to survive to fall in painful struggle and be enveloped in eternal darkness. Inhale, the Utopia battle plan is about to begin." As he said that, Crocodile looked at the ceiling intoxicated, as if his dream thing was about to be completed. With that kind of expectation and joy, looking at Crocodile like this, everyone couldn't help but twitch their eyes. What's going on with this guy Crocodile? Is this a normal person? But Weiwei is still very concerned about what Crocodile means by the Utopia battle plan. So, Weiwei quickly asked, "Crocodile, what exactly do you want to do to Alabasta? Tell me quickly." Ha ha, ha ha. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Crocodile smiled devilishly again, and then said very proudly, "Do you want me to tell you, the kind of people I despise the most? That is a hypocrite who pretends to be thinking about the people, but is actually a selfish hypocrite." Weiwei was stunned for a moment, then yelled, "You want to kill my father? How could you do this?" Crocodile replied, "Don't scream like that. I didn't intend to do that. He is not worth killing at all. I want Cobra to experience a humiliation that is crueler than death." Seeing the way everyone wanted to kill him but had no choice but to do anything, Crocodile said happily, "As a princess of a country, you can't show such a face. Weiwei, let me ask you again, what exactly is Operation Utopia? Tell me quickly." Hey, hey. Crocodile said, "Do you understand your current position? Anyway, the battle is about to begin, so it doesn't hurt to tell you." After all, Crocodile had been preparing for this for 3 years. If he didn't show it off, he would always feel a little lonely, wouldn't he? Crocodile said, "Then I will tell you the plan to end the kingdom of Alabasta and fight in Utopia." Then Crocodile told him about controlling King Kabusha and asking him R2 to pretend to be the king to provoke this war. At the same time, on the streets of Uti, Lin Hai said, "Nami, you have to give me some face, right? Just let me be awesome for once, okay?" With that said, Lin Hai shook Nami's arm like a baby. Helpless Nami asked, "You can pretend to be your maid, but I won't wear a maid uniform. You must design a costume for me that I like. And all the compensation that will come then will belong to me." "Okay, okay." Lin Hai approached Nami's ear and whispered softly, "I can give you hundreds of millions, no problem." Nami's face turned red and she rolled her eyes. "Tell me, what do you want me to do?" Lin Hai explained, "When you see Crocodile later, you just need to stand next to me and don't speak. Leave the rest to me." Nami nodded and said, "That's no problem. If you don't get the compensation by then, you will be dead." Lin Hai took Nami to a changing place and said as he walked, "Don't you know my ability yet? Even if Crocodile doesn't give it to you, I can still get you a pile of gold coins." Nami suddenly realized that the benefits of spatial ability were immediately apparent. So, Nami pretended to be gentle, hugged Lin Hai's arm, and then said softly, "Lin Hai, can you?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "No." Nami said speechlessly, "I didn't even say anything, why did you refuse?" Lin Hai scratched Nami's nose and said, "Human desires are unlimited. What you control is yourself. Don't fall into the pile of money. Then you will become a high-level tool that can only collect treasures. That is the greatest sadness." "Exactly." Nami said depressedly, "I haven't even received a Pele, why do you have to teach me a lesson? By the way, what kind of clothes are you going to give me?" Chapter 89 is embarrassing again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After changing her clothes, Nami stared blankly at herself in the mirror, as if she didn't recognize herself, because this outfit was so stunning. Lin Hai, who was next to Nami, shook his head and said, "Nami, let's change our clothes. I didn't take your temperament into account. This outfit doesn't match you." Nami quickly objected, "No, I want to dress like this." Ahem, at this time, if anyone has watched the movie Resident Evil, they will definitely criticize Lin Hai. Isn't Nami's outfit the same as the heroine Alice in the movie? But Nami's figure is better than Alice's. Because Alice is A and Nami is almost E. After admiring it for a while, Nami turned around and asked, "What about you? Are you going to meet Crocodile like this?" Lin Hai smiled and said, "You don't need to worry about me. Speaking of the weapons Usopp gave you, have you mastered the skills in them? After all, sometimes I can't take care of you. Since you want to travel around the world, you must learn to save your life." Nami rolled her eyes and said, "How many times have you told me that when I was at sea, you were still drinking milk?" Ignoring Nami's complaints, Lin Hai started to style his hair. If I remember correctly, the first time Nami used the weather stick, she was almost killed by her partner in MR1 because she didn't use it after getting the weapon. Already? Lin Hai blew his hair with a hair dryer and said, "Remember Nami, your phantom illusion is completely useless against people who are domineering, so once you find something wrong, find a way to run away." Before he finished speaking, Nami lay on Lin Hai's back and played with her. "Are you so nagging? Are you caring about me?" Saying that, Nami touched Lin Hai's ear with her tongue. Lin Hai couldn't help but breathed, "I'm dressing up, don't make trouble, no wonder people in your village always say you are a bad girl." Nami did not stop teasing Lin Hai. She leaned close to Lin Hai's ear and whispered softly, "Don't you like it? Is it bearable? What is unbearable?" Lin Hai turned around and kissed Nami directly. "Ahem, is this a meat bun beating a dog? Playing into your heart?" A long time later, Nami was walking on the street with a blush on her face. She was holding Lin Hai's arm and rushing to where Crocodile was. The attire of Lin Hai and Nami is really too attractive. At this time, Nami's front and back are bulging, faintly carrying the aura of a young woman, which adds to her charm. Lin Hai was dressed exactly as he was singing that day, black trousers, a white shirt, and a low-key colored jacket. It's not that Lin Hai doesn't want to dress more coquettishly, it's just that he can't make ends meet lately. The coquettish coins are almost gone. Soon, the two entered one of the most prosperous casinos in the Rainland, where Crocodile was located. Not far away, Nico Robin was already waiting for Lin Hai and the others. Looking at the two people in front of him, Nico Robin couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, because the two people were dressed so amazingly. Nico Robin reacted and said, "You two, please come with me, the boss is waiting for you." For some reason, Lin Hai really wanted to be taller at this time, because at 177 centimeters, Lin Hai felt like a dwarf in front of Robin, who was about 2 meters tall. At this time, Lin Hai smiled and said, "You are Nico Robin, right? I've met you once before. Your boss will be coming to an end soon. How about hanging out with us in the future?" Ha ha ha. Robin turned around and smiled, "You are quite confident in yourself, let's talk about it later." Seeing Robin smile faintly and continue to lead the way, Nami pinched Lin Hai and couldn't help but said, "You don't have a crush on her, do you?" "What a playboy." Lin Hai was helpless. Robin had a really good figure. Lin Hai was just looking at her. How could he fall in love with her? But Nami is right. Lin Hai was indeed moved, but he absolutely couldn't admit it. When several people walked out of the room, Lin Hai asked Robin to go in first, because Lin Hai designed a way for himself to appear. At this time, Crocodile, who was in the reception hall, saw only Robin coming in, and couldn't help but ask, "Where is the person?" Robin consciously stood next to Crocodile and replied, "He's here." People in the room suddenly heard a burst of exciting music. This background music is the BGM of One Piece when Hawkeye takes action and red hair appears. The author can't find the name of this BGM. Along with this exciting BGM, Lin Hai appeared. I saw that Lin Hai lowered his head slightly at this time, and the beautiful hair on his forehead looked so elegant in the breeze. Lin Hai was extremely satisfied with himself at this time, but at this time, Lin Hai was thinking about Luffy and the others. Didn't they go to the capital of Alabasta? Why were a group of people locked in that small room? When he was thinking about what was going on, who knew that the road ahead was going down? As a result, Lin Hai missed his step and rolled down the ladder directly from the door. Nami was still at the door, reaching out with one hand to hold Lin Hai, Luffy and the others in the small room were immediately stunned. What's going on with Lin Hai? Hey, what the hell is Lin Hai doing? Is he kidding? What nonsense are you talking about? Hey Lin Hai, get us out quickly. At this time, Crocodile, who was sitting in a chair and in a deep state of mind, turned to look at Nico Robin. Is this guy really offering a reward of 300 million Baileys? Why do you feel like a fool? At this time, Lin Hai stood up and felt his face was burning. He quickly turned off the announcer. Since the pretense failed, let's negotiate. Lin Hai glared at Luffy and the others in the direction of the small room, and they quickly shut up. Then Lin Hai sat on the chair facing Crocodile, and Nami also stood beside Lin Hai. At this time, Lin Hai took out a half-meter-long cigar and lit it with a denomination of 10,000 belly. Everyone was shocked by this scene. It's really cool. Silk cake. I will do this when I light up cigarettes in the future. Why didn't I think of it before? Which of you has money? I really want to try it. Ignoring the shouting and yelling of everyone in the small room, Lin Hai blew out a puff of thick smoke, but fortunately he could hold on. The half-meter-long cigar was so heavy that he almost choked. At this time, Lin Hai knocked on the table with his hand and said, "Not long ago, I took one of my maids to travel around the world and passed by a place called Whiskey Peak. As a result, we were almost assassinated, and their purpose was to exchange my head for the bounty. Every time I think about this, I feel a dull pain." After saying that, Lin Hai continued to take a puff of cigarette, while Crocodile bit a cigar and stared at Lin Hai quietly. After Lin Hai blew out a puff of smoke, he said, "I heard that those who assassinated us were arranged by Crocodile, right? I don't seem to have offended you, right? Mr. Zero." Ha 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 ha. Crocodile smiled devilishly, stared at Lin Hai provocatively and asked, "They are my subordinates, what do you want?" Lin Hai leaned against the chair, put his heels on the table, and said bohemianly, "You must compensate for the intimidation fee, the frightening fee, the loss of work, the mental damage fee, the cost of coming here, etc." Humph. Hem hum, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Space Field. Looking at Crocodile's arrogance, he doesn't intend to compensate, and Lin Hai doesn't intend to talk nonsense and strike preemptively. Chapter 90 Lin Hai blushes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who is Crocodile sitting opposite Lin Hai? He had challenged Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Although he lost, Crocodile had always placed himself at a slightly lower level than Whitebeard. As for Lin Hai in front of him, the bounty is only 300 million belly, and Crocodile is not afraid. At this time, Crocodile was just curious about what this transparent film was. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain in his stomach. What? Belling. Before anyone could react, Crocodile was swept away by Lin Hai's armed and domineering legs. Crocodile smashed through the door of the passage and flew out. Lin Hai did not intend to kill Crocodile because the relationship in this world was too mysterious. Looking at the original work, Luffy was able to come out of the underwater prison because of Crocodile's credit, right? During the war on the top, Crocodile helped fend off Luffy once when he was being chased by Hawkeye. Ace was also saved once by Crocodile when he was about to be executed. When Luffy was chased by Akainu, Crocodile still came to help once. If you let him go now, he may actually save himself in the future. Lin Hai has to believe in this kind of metaphysics even if he doesn't believe it. After flying far through the passage, Crocodile finally realized what he was doing. He was confused. Isn't he a natural ability user? He seemed to have been kicked by someone just now, and he flew so far. Cough cough cough. Crocodile couldn't help spitting out blood and staring in the direction of the room where he had just negotiated with Lin Hai. At this time, Crocodile was not afraid, but filled with anger. Who is Crocodile? He, Crocodile, has always aimed at the peak of pirates, but if he was kicked so far by a gangster who suddenly appeared with a bounty of 300 million, he, Crocodile, would not have to mess around anymore if he didn't recover from this situation. Thinking of this, Crocodile reorganized himself and went to get this place back. Lin Hai, who was in the room, sensed it with his sense of power and knew that Crocodile was back. At the right time, Lin Hai used his abilities to replace everyone in the cage. Smoker stepped forward and said, "What's the status of your ability?" "This small cage is made of sea stone." Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "Hurry to the capital of Alabasta, Crocodile's plan has already begun." Luffy asked confused, "What about you?" Lin Hai replied, "That guy doesn't give up. Anyway, you go ahead and I'll stop Crocodile." Facing a war involving millions of people, Luffy was still sensible and made a decision quickly, but Smoker was still struggling. Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "Brother Smog, please wake up. Are the lives of so many people not worth your nonsense theory? Hurry up and resolve the crisis. Don't look for a way out before the matter is resolved. It's trouble for them." Smoker said angrily, "Don't talk to me in a preachy way. Also, I'm older than you. In terms of seniority, you should call me brother." "Okay, Brother Smoker, I'll trouble you." Lin Hai replied with a look of shame. At this time, Crocodile had already arrived. Smoker knew that he was no match for him, so he followed the Straw Hats out. At this time, Crocodile said with a gloomy face, "Who are you? What is your purpose?" Lin Hai answered the question and said, "Are you really a pirate? I think pirates should be free and have no fixed abode. But look at yourself, you actually want to seize that Pluto and then rule the world. Ha ha ha, it's really hilarious." Crocodile narrowed his eyes and said in a low tone, "You seem to know a lot." With that said, Crocodile was ready to take action. Lin Hai said quickly, "Wait a minute, there is water all around. Are you sure you want to fight? Why don't we go to the desert and have a good fight?" Crocodile smiled playfully. He was a sha-sha fruit user, but Lin Hai actually chose to go to the desert to duel with him. Thinking of this, Crocodile replied, "Since you want to die, then I will help you." Soon, Lin Hai and Crocodile arrived at an open place. Crocodile said with great disdain, "Today, I will let you be buried here, which can be considered your luck." Lin Hai said helplessly, "If you don't leave the kingdom of Alabasta, then I will have to beat you unconscious and take you to the navy to exchange for a bounty. I heard that you are quite valuable. How much is the bounty?" "Ha ha, ha ha. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha." Crocodile said angrily and laughed, "Kid, who do you think I am? If you have the ability, just come." Desert sword. Sure enough, Crocodile was more comfortable using his abilities in the desert. The giant knife made of a pile of sand quickly slashed towards Lin Hai. Ahem, Lin Hai is going to play with Crocodile and learn about Crocodile's advantages. Isn't growing up through learning something that the protagonist must know? As a result, Lin Hai twisted his body and yawned, "Oh, so awesome." Crocodile had veins popping on his forehead. What's going on with this guy? The furious Crocodile stretched out his right hand, and then a small whirlwind appeared in his palm. "Hey kid, come and take my move if you dare." Space field. What? Crocodile felt the severe pain again, but before he could react, he was kicked out. Ahem, in the space field, Lin Hai is like a cheater, ignoring the distance from the opponent, because Lin Hai can change the opponent's position, and then passively accept Lin Hai's already prepared kick. If Doflamingo were left to catch it, he would probably catch it. Because Doflamingo has a deeper understanding of this similar ability. At this time, Crocodile stood up again and wiped the blood from his mouth, and then asked, "What on earth did your kid do to me?" Lin Hai rolled his eyes and said, "Haven't you seen it yet? You were crushed by me." Crocodile was beaten awake. His goal was Pluto. There was no need to confront this guy with inexplicable abilities here. Moreover, the Straw Hats have already rushed to the capital of Alabasta. Thinking of this, Crocodile put on a look of disdain and said, "Being crushed by you? Ha ha ha. Be careful of talking big and flashing your tongue. Take my move, Desert Sunflower. Grass." When he heard this name, Lin Hai thought of a whirlpool on the sea. He quickly jumped away to avoid being buried by someone else's ultimate move. At this moment, a huge whirlpool of quicksand appeared on the desert, and all the sand around it fell to the lowest point in the center. It was really shocking. Lin Hai stared at the center of the quicksand. He really couldn't figure out what principle this was based on. In this moment of confusion, well, there was no trace of Crocodile's aura within the range of the domineering power. At this time, Lin Hai in the desert couldn't help but blush. He was tricked. Bah, Shichibukai actually ran away, how shameless. It's not Lin Hai's fault, it's Crocodile who is so shameless.